If I'm successful, today I won't talk about graphics at all. I understand this is a show about startups. Is that right? As a show of hands, if you could just help me, who is trying to start a company? That's a lot. Who's trying to start a graphics company? Thank you. I've competed with so many companies in the history of computer graphics. I've just about had it. And if you guys could not contribute to any more competition, I'd really appreciate it. It is true, I am one of the longest running tech CEOs, probably in history. I've been the CEO of NVIDIA 23 years. And I started it in 1993. I was 30 years old. And I had a couple of great friends who are amazing engineers, and the three of us started NVIDIA together. It's been a great journey, and one that frankly we're just starting. Today I hope to do several things. I hope to tell you our story very simply, so that you can get a flavor of what it's like when you create a company, the evolution that goes into the surprises that you find. And maybe what I could do is share with you just a couple of learnings that I've had along the way that might be a perspective of somebody who's been doing it for a very long time. The things that you learn when you get good at something is one thing. You come up with some lessons to share with other people, and that's always good. And then when you do something for a very long time, you start to master your craft, and then you have a long list of additional lessons you can pass on. And then when you do something as long as I have, you discover that everything you learned in the past might not be right, and you discover that you know a lot less now than when you started. And it's a little bit like, I think it's a little bit like our children. And my children are 24 and 25 years old. And in watching them grow up, and of course reflecting our own youth, we realized that in fact, we were the smartest people on the planet at somewhere around 17 to 21. We were completely indomitable, and we knew everything. And then pretty soon, when you're in your 30s, you can translate that knowledge of everything into superhuman powers. Start companies. And that's really, as I looked at the people that had your hands raised, you really should start companies right around that time. Then when you get to be my age, you become highly vulnerable, because now you know how hard everything is. And everything that you're about to attempt is way harder than you expect right now. I'm not trying to discourage you from it. I'm just telling you, your state of mind right now is really quite perfect. And that's the only thing that keeps startups going. Let me ask one more question. Who would like to be a millionaire? That is such a question that you ask during my times. Your times, who would like to be a billionaire? That's right. Okay, here we go. Well, it is really great to want that. It's really great to want that. And it's great to want that because you could bring joy to your families. You could make a contribution back to society and help people do things, move the world forward in ways that otherwise, without financial capability, are impossible. And it's also fantastic because you can give yourself the freedom to pursue what you love to do. And ultimately, that financial freedom gives you the ability to do what you love to do, but in a lot of ways, financial freedom can't be the reason why you start your company. Getting rich can't be the reason. And the reason for that is because it's very obvious. You can't control it. There's only one thing you can really control. It is the love of your work. And the good news about that is that you're going to get lots of it. And so you better love your work. I loved my work the first day we started this company. I love my work today. I have more of it today than 23 years ago. I could argue that I love it even more today. And so doing it for the love of the work, I think, is really, really important. It's probably the first lesson. We started our company in the PC revolution. And what we saw was that the computer can become a revolutionary consumer device if it had certain capabilities that enables applications to be made that are enjoyable to people, that are enjoyable to consumers. Not spreadsheets, not word processors, but applications that can make the personal computer a revolutionary consumer device. And our view was that 3D graphics was going to be really important to that. Now, we weren't the only company that saw that. There were a lot of graphics companies in Silicon Valley at the time. We had tons of competition. Graphics is one of the most enjoyable areas of computer science because it's hard. It never seems to be accomplished. And the work that you do is incredibly beautiful. And you see it right away. It's not like networking technology. When you're done, you just see bits. Well, you don't see anything. Bits are just flowing up and down the pipeline, and you don't see anything. In the case of computer graphics, the joy that you bring to people when you're successful and you build something amazing is really, really contagious, and it's wonderful. And so a lot of competitors came in. The thing that we observed, and was probably one of our first realizations that changed the company, that put us above, that set us apart, that gave us a chance. The first observation was that the killer app is likely the small field at the time called video games. That video games was, in fact, computationally, mathematically, algorithmically, incredibly difficult because recreating reality is hard. And it was a large market at the same time. At the time, it was completely small. At the time, it was zero. But we felt that if we were successful, it could be a very large market. The combination of something that is computationally complicated, mathematically complicated, meaning that it'll take a long time to solve, and it is a mass market, is very, very rare to find. It's an incredibly rare to find at the time. If you will, it is a killer app. We discovered that, and we bet the farm on it, and created the world's first 3D graphics company dedicated to consumer applications. There's a whole bunch of stories I'll leave, but that observation propelled our company after some period of time. One of the things that we did well is we never rested on our laurels. I mean, we always believed that there was another frontier, that even when we were number one, even when we were doing really well, and even when we were growing, and we were the fastest growing technology company in the history of mankind in the mid-90s. We grew faster than any company to $100 million. We grew faster than any company to $1 billion. We grew faster than any company to $2 billion. Even during that time, we continued to challenge ourselves to create the next. And the next thing for us was an observation that there were two things about the future of video games that was really important to understand. One, in order to create the future, to create a beautiful environment, enjoyable environment, virtual reality, we have to include computational physics. Simulating smoke, simulating fire, simulating water, simulating explosions, simulating crumbling buildings, using first principled computational mathematics is going to be necessary because artists cannot draw, render, animate the physical world. That observation that we have to become a supercomputer company and essentially put a supercomputer on a little tiny computer chip was an incredible observation for the company. It was a huge risk. Changing the nature of our processors, huge risk. The second observation was we noticed that computer graphics shouldn't be about just making graphics work. we observed that we had to be at that intersection between science and art. Being functionally complete, being functionally correct is not sufficient to creating wonderful games. That we are a medium of artistic expression. Now, when I said that, we're a medium for artistic expression, for an engineer, it is incredibly difficult to translate to action. We are a medium for artistic expression. How do we create a chip, a platform, that is a medium for artistic expression? Because if we want video games to grow, it has to be beautiful, and artists needs to be able to express their art in many different ways. That Van Gogh and Picasso have the ability to have an infinite canvas. That observation was very complicated to translate to action, but it was an incredible observation, and I can argue put us here today. We reinvented our company into a supercomputer company. We reinvented our company into an artistic medium company. The next thing I'll tell you that was really exciting was we stay alert. Staying alert and looking for weak signals was really important to how we got here. One day, a couple of computational biologists at MIT's research hospital, Mass General, reached out and said, we would like to use your GPUs to simulate CT scan reconstruction. And they apologized right away. They said, if we were really successful, the most number of chips we would ever buy from you would be 2. 1 for each of us. I was so intrigued by the work that I flew to see them at Mass General, and we discovered, while we were spending time there, that the nature of our architecture of our GPU could be useful for just about everything computational. Because we were trying to simulate physics, we were trying to simulate the world anyways. Scientists are trying to simulate the world just as well. And if we could find a way to use our processors for general purpose computing, not just graphics computing, but general purpose computing, we can revolutionize the discovery of new science. We invented this technology called CUDA. We entered into the high-performance computing market with, at the time, what appears to be some kind of a strange product. But today, our processors power United States' fastest supercomputer, Europe's fastest supercomputer, Japan's fastest supercomputer. It is responsible for science discoveries all over the world. And one day, 3 other universities, about 6 years ago, reached out to us, and they had a unique problem. They wanted to simulate the human brain. And at the time, it seemed like it was quite ambitious and very difficult to do. And they needed our help to find out how they could refactor this new field called deep learning, a network called convolution neural nets, to teach computers with an enormous amount of data so that it could program itself. What now is recognized as a turbocharger for artificial intelligence. Another example of weak signals and people that reached out to us with very, very, very small applications at the time that turns out into enormous opportunities to make contribution. And so that's kind of where we are today. What started out as a processor for video games, recognizing the power of mass markets, which led us to general purpose parallel computing, because we were trying to simulate physics, one day led us to artificial intelligence and the work that we're doing now in self-driving cars, deep learning, artificial intelligence, literally everywhere. Well, that's the little short story of our company. At the time, we're about 10,000 people large now. We're based largely in Silicon Valley. We have 2,000 great engineers here. and I get the opportunity to come visit them once a year, and it gives me incredible joy. Now, I learned several things along the way that I'll maybe just emphasize, and maybe during the questions, if you could honor me with some questions. I learned several things. I would say that it's good to have a plan. It's always good to have a plan, but there will be a lot more setbacks than you expect. And so I guess I would say plan for setbacks. And what would a startup company do about that advice? I would suggest that you raise more money than you need. You know, it's a little bit like building a house. They say it costs whatever amount it costs. By the time that you're done with the change orders, it seems to cost 10 times as much. And so I would plan for setbacks. Failure is how you learn. And so I would say learn to fail. You know, gymnasts learn how to fall. That's the first thing they do. Gymnasts learn how to fall. That's the first thing they teach them. And if you want to be a great gymnast, if you want to be a great entrepreneur, learning how to fail is really important. And then the last thing that I will say is, you'll be surprised by this. Strategies don't matter. Strategies don't matter. Strategies are simply actions that are contextually appropriate of that time. And time's going to change, competition's going to change, your strategies will change. Technology doesn't matter. You'll create new ones. Other people will create better ones. You'll get rid of yours. You'll build other technologies. So technology doesn't matter. And so here I am in a technology startup conference, and I'm a technology company, and I just told you, technology doesn't matter, and strategies don't matter. So what does matter? Purpose? What matters? Purpose matters a great deal. Purpose matters a great deal. Purpose matters an enormous amount. But I would say that in the end, that one thing that I've learned is something that we know to be fundamental human truths, and that's the people that surround you matters a lot. And so how you select your team matters everything. And that's where I think in the end, I've been CEO for a long time because I've been gifted with surrounding myself with an amazing team that does for me and does for the company things that I can't imagine doing myself. My teammates do things that are superhuman all the time. And these are things that I can't imagine doing myself. Okay, so that's it. That's my lesson for all of you.